One quiet afternoon, Joe, a humble farmer, was going about his chores when a woman in distress appeared, stranded with a broken car on the side of the road. Little did he know, a simple act of kindness would soon lead to an unexpected encounter. When she stepped into his barn, what happened next would change his life forever. Joe was a 42-year-old farmer who lived on the outskirts of his city with his wife and 2 daughters. As the only child of 2 farmers, Joe took an interest in farming from a young age. He loved playing with the horses, milking the cows, fixing their farm truck and machines with his father, and assisting his parents with basic farm chores. Even though Joe's parents were always struggling financially, they tried their best to always provide for Joe. Every day, Joe's father would drive a long distance to take Joe to school, as the school bus didn't come down to Joe's neighborhood. After Joe completed high school, his parents forced him to go to college because they wanted him to be a businessman. But Joe always had an interest in the farm. To please his parents, Joe went to college to study business management, and luckily for him, he got a good job. However, after 5 years of working in the corporate world, Joe was forced to quit because he didn't feel like he belonged there. He had always wanted to take care of his parents' farm and possibly own one in the future. After Joe quit his job, he was scared of how his parents would react. But surprisingly, his parents were not mad. In fact, they were proud of Joe for going after what he wanted. A few years after Joe returned to managing his parents' farm, his parents passed away. His father passed away first from a brief illness, and 3 years after his father died, his mother passed away, leaving only Joe to take care of the farm. Thankfully, Joe married his girlfriend Alice, and they started a family on the big farm. So he had a companion after his parents passed away. For many years, Joe and Alice lived on the farm with their 2 daughters, and he did his best to provide for his family. Although Alice was working, the couple still had some financial struggles, especially since they had expanded their farm and had to take good care of all the animals. One day, Joe was doing one of the things he loved, milking a cow in his barn, when he overheard a woman screaming in frustration not too far from his barn. Curious to find out what was happening, Joe went outside to look, and he saw a woman in her early 30s standing over an open bonnet. From the frustrated look on her face, it was apparent that she was having car trouble. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" Joe asked as he approached the woman. "Does everything look all right?" The woman yelled at him. The woman yelled out of frustration, but when she saw Joe's surprised and disappointed look, she apologized immediately. "I'm so sorry. I'm just having a bad day." Out of all the places, this car decided to break down in the middle of nowhere. The woman said in a teary voice, "No, it's fine. You don't have to apologize. Some days are just like that." Joe said, "You stay around here?" The woman asked, while scattering her eyes around the environment. "Yep, I live on that farm with my family," Joe said, pointing to his farm. "Do you mind if I take a look at your car?" Joe added. Immediately, Joe said that, and the woman chuckled. "You're a farmer. Do you know anything about cars?" the woman asked. "More than you think," Joe said. "If you let me take a look, I might help you." "All right, please. Knock yourself out," the woman said. Without wasting time, Joe walked to the engine area and touched some things. After some minutes of touching a few things, Joe asked the woman to try turning on her car. Surprisingly, when the woman turned on her car, the car started. "Oh my God, it worked," the woman said excitedly. "I'm so sorry I doubted you." "Thank you so much," she said. "Don't worry about that," Joe smiled. "Oh, my dad. I'm Celine." The woman introduced herself. "I'm Joe," Joe said. "Oh, Joe. Thank you so much. You're my knight in shining armor." "I don't know how I would have handled this situation without you," the woman said. "You're welcome, Celine. I bet you're thirsty. Do you want to come in and have a drink?" Joe asked. "Oh, I'd really love that. Also, I've never been on an actual farm, and I wouldn't mind a tour," Celine said. "Don't worry. My wife and I will show you around," Joe said. Shortly after, Joe and Celine arrived at the house and met Alice. Joe's wife, Alice, was in the kitchen cooking lunch, and she was thrilled to see Celine. "Hello, Celine. It's nice to meet you. You came at the right time. Lunch is ready," Alice said after Joe introduced her to Celine. "Oh no, I'm full already," Celine lied, but immediately after she said that, her stomach rumbled. "No, please, we insist," Joe said. "Okay, I will, because you asked nicely," Celine said as she sat at the dining table. About an hour later, after Joe, Alice, and Celine ate, the couple took Celine around their farm and showed her around. "Do you name all of your animals?" Celine asked when she heard Joe calling a horse by its name. "Of course we do. If we don't, how would we identify them?" Joe said, and then he burst into laughter. "Can I touch him?" Celine said, pointing to the horse which Alice was touching. "Yes, Frederick is such a sweet horse, and he is quite friendly," Alice said without hesitation. Celine touched the horse gently, and the horse neighed. After a few minutes of walking around the barn, Celine did something that stunned Joe and Alice. Before then, Joe had seen Celine scribbling something on a piece of paper, but he didn't get a proper look. "Alice, Joe, I want you guys to have this," Celine said as she stretched a check to the couple. "What?" Joe asked in a confused tone. "You can consider this as my parting gift to you," Celine said as she smiled broadly. Unsure of what to do, Joe took the check, and when he saw the amount Celine had written, he tried to give it back to her. "No, Celine, this is too much. We cannot accept this," Joe said. "Please, Joe, you were kind to me, so allow me to be kind to you too. You said it yourself that the farm is struggling. This money can make things easier for you," Celine said. "But it's a lot of money," Alice said, "which is exactly what a sweet and hard-working couple like you deserves." Celine said, "Please, do not reject my first gift to you," she added. When Joe and Alice saw that Celine was serious and they wouldn't succeed in convincing her, they took the check and then they hugged. "Celine, thank you so much. Celine, you have no idea what you've done for us," Joe said. "No, I should be thanking you both for your kindness and for opening your home to me," Celine said. "I have to leave now. It's a long drive back to town, and I hope I see you both again," she said before leaving. After Joe and Alice watched Celine's car disappear from sight, they hugged each other tightly and burst into tears. "This feels like a dream," Alice said. "No, honey, it's not. It's our new reality. With this money, we can do the things we couldn't do before," Joe said excitedly. In the weeks that followed, Joe and Alice used the money to invest in their farm. They bought new machines and trucks and disposed of the old faulty ones. They bought more animals and expanded their barns. With this, their lives improved greatly, and they lived happily ever after. Joe's act of kindness to Celine, a stranger in need, changed his life unexpectedly. By offering his help without any expectation of a return, Joe not only gave her a moment of relief, but also received a life-changing gift. His story shows that when you show kindness, even in tough times, good things can come back to you in surprising ways. Joe's experience teaches us that generosity often leads to rewards we didn't anticipate, proving that sometimes doing good for others also brings benefits to ourselves.